Nico Harrison finally suffers the consequences of his own actions. De'Aaron Fox returns for the Spurs, who continue to look dominant. The Clippers look old as dirt and have lost their last 5 games in a row. The NBA had one of its wildest nights in a long time, and the Ja Morant situation appears to be improving. All of that and more on week 3 of Rusty Buckets news. On with our first story, which is of course Nico Harrison being fired by the Dallas Mavericks. We actually originally had this story as a hint that that was going to happen. As Tim McMahon recently said on a podcast, at this point it's a matter of when, not if, Nico Harrison will be fired. Strong likelihood it will be this season. Yeah, pretty good take. It happened immediately following that. And this is probably in large part due to the fact that Dallas's home sellout streak of 24 years now was broken. They are not selling out their games. Their ticket prices are going down. Are you fucking kidding me? Why are you flickering on and off? A lot of this is also, of course, because a very large percentage of the fan base felt betrayed by the Luka Doncic trade. Now, of course, there is the conversation of, was this actually Nico, or was he just the scapegoat here? Whichever it may be, I think one way or the other, Nico Harrison is an idiot. Whether it is because he thought the Luka trade was a good idea, or he thought it would be at all acceptable for his career and good for his career to be the fall guy in this instance. Like, unless they had some blackmail on Nico, there's literally straight up zero reason to have fallen in line with this, because I don't think there is a GM in the history of sports who has a more sour reputation. Maybe there's someone out there who did more shit in totality, but at the very least, he is the most despised sports executive in my lifetime. And again, if he's just decided to be the fall guy for this, then he's a damn fool for that. As for what's next for the Dallas Mavericks, I'm guessing it will probably be trading Anthony Davis and just blowing up this roster and building around Cooper Flagg. Truly, because Cooper Flagg is a transcendent talent, this trade ends up being not as disastrous as it could have been, but they were not going to be competitive this year. They were certainly not going to be a contender this year, especially with all of their injury issues. Oh, and I've neglected to mention this about AD as well. He's, for lack of a better term, he's fat. Like, for an NBA player, and for Anthony Davis especially, he has gained a lot of weight. Anthony Davis came into the league, and for like the first couple of years of his career, one of the major criticisms of him as a player was that he was too damn skinny. And even as he bulked up later into his career, especially on the Los Angeles Lakers, he was still not a very thick man. He was not a very juicy big boy. He is looking quite rotund. Photos of him on the court, it is just so fucking funny that they would trade Luka because he's fat, and then a player who has primarily been known for how skinny he is also gaining weight in Dallas. What a fucking shit show it is. Unbelievable to me that this has gone the way that it has. I still can't wrap my mind around it. It's the biggest disaster that I have ever witnessed any NBA franchise put themselves through. Cooper Flagg has been really awful in his rookie year to no fault of his own. He has expressed frustration over losing more in the NBA than he did at any other level up to this point in his life.
I mean, for me, it's the most, of life since, I think ever. So, it's obviously a lot different, and we have to adapt to just playing a lot more games and, get used to that. But, I wouldn't say anybody's happy. Guys obviously are trying to stay level-headed and know that we got a lot more games to go, and it's still really early. But, I'm speaking personally. I know it's not fun. Just keep losing games. So I can make a change and hopefully start, making steps for our direction.
Playing him at point guard has been a complete disaster. I would argue that Jason Kidd has been such a bad coach at this point, it almost seems like he's trying to get fired. But one way or the other, what Nico Harrison did is extremely inexcusable, and GMs have been fired for far, far less. Not only did he do the worst trade that I have ever seen in my entire damn life, but another trade that he made at right around the same time at the deadline, he moved Quentin Grimes for one of the fucking twins, Caleb Martin. Caleb Martin's been ass Quentin Grimes is probably the front runner for Sixth Man of the Year right now. Obviously, injuries are a factor. Anthony Davis has missed time. Kyrie Irving will not be back towards the tail end of the season, but I just don't see how they're going to be good enough that they would even be a playoff team by the time that Kyrie is there. Firing Nico and just trading all of the veterans on this team to me would be the move, but gotta say, I'm quite glad that I did not buy into the notion that the Dallas Mavericks were secretly good. I predicted that they would be one of the best defenses in the NBA, which they are, but I also predicted that they'd be one of the worst offenses in the NBA, and they are literally the worst so far. So you just don't get to be a championship team with this much lacking in the offensive department. I know defense wins championships, but guess what? So does offense. You don't win a championship if your offense isn't at least okay. Certainly not if it's the worst in the league. But moving on, updating on our last week's headliner, Ja Morant and that whole debacle. Last week, he had the game versus the Lakers where he was just not trying, very visibly uninterested in what was happening on the floor, and he made some rather inflammatory comments to the media. But since then, Ja, Jaren Jackson, who's also been bad, and Coach Isolo seem to be more on the same page. Rudy actually manned the ship and did a video over on Little Rusty about that whole situation, as he is a diehard Grizzlies fan, but what he really did not address there was like the likelihood that the coach and the players could sit down and hash it out. But that seems to be what has happened. The body language and the vibes are certainly much improved. To be fair, they were in the fucking mud before this, but does seem a little bit better. They did blow a 19-point lead to the Thunder in a game where Ja's cold streak continued, and I gotta say, dude, Ja Morant's last 5 games is one of the worst streaks that I have seen from a star guard in a really long time. His efficiency is brutal. I am talking sub 30% from the field and like barely 10% from 3. But apparently they are generating shots that the team is happy with, that he is pretty happy with, and they want him to keep being aggressive, which is encouraging. Ja Morant has been, at least by contrast, more professional in his media scrums earlier, despite the losing and the poor shooting. Although he did have a controversial quote when DeMichael Cole asked Ja about his numbers at the rim being low. He said, "I'm getting no foul calls. Y'all had a whole spiel about running in there careless and getting hurt, so what now? That's what y'all want me to go back doing? Let's end that convo right there." Bro, Ja Morant is pissing me off. That quote also pisses me off. I have this thing. I understand NBA players being mean to NBA media. To an extent, I understand where that urge comes from. I understand that NBA media misrepresents players a lot of the time, and that can be deeply frustrating. But Ja is asked a question about his rim frequency being down, and then he's like, "Oh, you stupid fucking reporters keep saying that I'm careless going to the basket." Like, did he say that? Maybe he said that, and I don't know that part, but immediately jump into, "Y'all wanted me to do something different, so now you're mad." Like, that's fucking childish, as his mentality has been lately, period. Things do appear to be improving, but I don't know if Ja is ever going to not be a clown from time to time. I forgot my pen. How is this a news show if I'm not holding a pen the whole time? I do understand the frustration about the not getting foul calls, but frankly, there is one superpower that Ja Morant has in this game that makes up for all of his other weaknesses, and that is his ability to get to the rim. Immediately, his playmaking is worse if he's not getting to the rim, and his scoring game is especially dog shit the moment that he is not getting to the rim. Like, I'm glad you're trying to develop other aspects of your game, but do the thing you're good at as well. Ideally. Last night, we had an absolutely insane slate of games, with nearly every one of them being decided by a bucket or two. The Hawks beat the Clippers by 3 points. The Bucks beat the Mavericks by 2. The Spurs beat the Bulls by 4. Pistons beat the Wizards in overtime by 2. The Heat beat the Cavs in overtime by 2. And the Orlando Magic win off of a game winner from Desmond Bane. That Miami Heat game ends off of a game winner from Andrew Wiggins. Also just a beautiful set there by Eric Spoelstra. Probably the best night of the NBA thus far based on what I have seen. I haven't actually watched any of these games. I am going to do that immediately after this recording because holy shit, I did watch Victor Wembanyama versus the Bulls, so that was crazy. He did I don't know if anyone remembers Carmelo Anthony hitting back-to-back threes on the Bulls in like 2011, but it was virtually the same exact shit, except it was Vooch who ate it instead of Luol Deng. But with that, let's move on to the games that I watched this week. I watched Will Richards have a really good game against the Sacramento Kings in a game that the Kings very narrowly won, despite the fact that both Jimmy Butler and Stephen Curry were sitting. Portland beat OKC for OKC's first loss of the season. The Thunder are probably going to win 70 games this year. I might have mispredicted that one. Milwaukee, I believe, beat Toronto, but I don't remember that game super well. Spurs versus Lakers was disappointing the way that went for Wemby, but it was still ultimately a good game. Phoenix versus Clippers. Phoenix has quickly become one of my favorite teams in the league this year, which is crazy by contrast to how I felt the last couple of years. I got the privilege of watching Ja Morant once again have a terrible game against the Mavericks. Giannis completely fucked up the Bulls, and just the Bucks in general are really good. I'm also really liking Ryan Rollins. Spurs Pelicans, I liked what I saw from Derek Queen. Also, De'Aaron Fox's return game. Detroit versus Philly was really fun. Orlando versus Boston was interesting. The Boston Celtics have been interesting this year. The Magic have been woefully unfun as much as I believed in them going into the year. Minnesota versus Sacramento, they fucking dog walked them the entire game. And Houston versus Milwaukee, always good to watch a Giannis versus Kevin Durant matchup. This is my games watch chart. My number one priority right now is to get all of the teams that I have only watched 2 games up into the number 3, and hopefully soon after that everybody into 4. I need to do some catching up. Lots of games from last night that I need to watch, but yeah. Some of these teams, it's been outages. The other thing is Minnesota just has not had Anthony Edwards up until very recently. These numbers are okay. I can do better, though. Lots of Bucks games, lots of Giannis this year, lots of Spurs, lots of Kings games, weirdly enough. Has not been a pleasure. Nor has the Mavericks games been a pleasure. All right, looking back at our standings in the Eastern Conference, the Detroit Pistons have taken the first seed with a 9-2 record. They have won their 7 last games. The Knicks, who started the season kind of shaky, have won their last 4. Miami is also still killing it. Cleveland, they're okay. They've just recently got Darius Garland, so hopefully they can do a little bit better. The Bucks, I am really enjoying so far this year. The Chicago Bulls have lost 3 in a row, and I am starting to worry that they are kind of a fraudulent team. The Philadelphia 76ers are in a similar position. They have lost some of last couple of games. The Hawks managed to keep winning without Trae Young, so that's interesting. The Raptors remain pretty mid, as do the Boston Celtics. The Orlando Magic continued to disappoint. Hopefully Desmond Bane's game winner last night is a sign of things changing. The Charlotte Hornets were really fun to start this year, and I believe they are a genuinely pretty decent roster, but of course LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller are hurt again. The Brooklyn Nets suck, the Indiana Pacers suck, and the Washington Wizards suck. Is anyone surprised? I'm actually a little bit surprised by just how much the Pacers have been terrible. At the top of the Western Conference, we have the OKC Thunder. The Spurs have won their last 3 games after taking a 2-game dip after their hot start. The Denver Nuggets have won 4 in a row. The Lakers still look phenomenal. The Rockets are still quite good. The Timberwolves have managed to win with a lot of Anthony Edwards missed games, and Rudy Gobert's defensive impact so far this year has been nuts. The Warriors are pretty mid. The Phoenix Suns I'm telling you, the Phoenix Suns are a fun watch, especially when Dylan Brooks is not playing. The Trailblazers have lost their last 2 games. Grizzlies not doing as great lately, especially Ja Morant, but we already talked about that. The Kings are a complete joke. Go check out my Little Rusty Buckets video about that. The Jazz, ever since they lost Walker Kessler, have went right back to being a terrible team. The Clippers are in the mud, the Mavericks are in the mud, and the Pelicans are in the mud. And for your players of the week, Denver center Nikola Jokic is dominating lately, continuing to insist on being in the MVP race, even though collectively people seem to want to move on. His team is 4-0 in the last week, and he is averaging 31 points, 11 rebounds, and 13 assists per game. Absolutely bonkers. And in the East, another 4-0 Pistons team has Cade Cunningham as the player of the week, averaging 31 points and 10 assists on really good efficiency, which has been a problem with him to open the year, but Cade has been on quite the streak lately. He's been absolutely killing it. For some other nominees in the West, Devin Booker for the Suns, SGA for the Thunder, Trey Murphy in New Orleans, Julius Randle in Minnesota, and Alperen Şengün of the Houston Rockets. And in the East, of course, you have Giannis of the Bucks, Jalen Duren of Detroit, Kanka Nipple for Charlotte, who's been really, really good lately, Donovan Mitchell, who had a big game the other night, Norman Powell, and Karl Anthony Towns. And for our panic button segment, the Clippers went 0-4 this week. Kawhi is still out, and his timeline to return is vague. Then again, when is it ever not fucking vague with him? The version of Kawhi being healthy, like that was something that he was bragging about while all the aspiration drama was going on. This is what healthy looks like for Kawhi Leonard, which for a normal player isn't healthy. I was high on this Clippers team, but so far they have looked old, capital O, capital L, capital D. And the thing about believing in a roster that has old players, at least the way that I approach it, is I don't assume that any kind of fall off has happened until it actually does happen. So I went into this season thinking that Harden, Kawhi, and Beal and Chris Paul would still be good. Brook Lopez would still be good. Brook Lopez has been solid. James Harden's been okay. Kawhi Leonard's been okay. But Chris Paul has looked unplayable, as has Bradley Beal, who I'm the most baffled by because he's like 32 years old? He's not even that old of a player. Currently, through 6 games, Beal is averaging 8 points per game, and he is shooting 37% from 3, but he is shooting the same percentage on his 2-pointers. So he looks absolutely fucking abysmal. John Collins looks good. The only young player that they added to this roster looks good, but that is the extent of it. Not to mention they are also one of the worst defenses in the NBA. They are currently 26th out of 30, and that is just not going to cut it. This is a Clippers team that has managed to be pretty good defensively in the past. Last year, they were 3rd in defensive rating. This is also in spite of the fact that they are starting Chris Dunn and Derrick Jones Jr., 2 players who are very let's just say not very good on the offensive end of the floor. So you're starting 2 guys for defense just to be the 26th best defense. That blows. Zubats was a DPOY candidate last year, but does not seem to have the same impact on that end this year. And Kawhi Leonard I've never felt like Kawhi Leonard was a bad defender, and I still don't think he's a bad one, but this might be the point where I'm finally like, yeah, I just don't think Kawhi has it as a defender anymore, period. Not just like he doesn't try that much anymore. I just don't think he can do it. Are they still contenders to me? No, I don't think they are. They were already a B-tier fringe contender to me. This is a deeply, deeply discouraging sign. It's especially sad to me to see from Chris Paul, who is one of my favorite players of all time. I was really excited to see him in a Clippers jersey because that's just super nostalgic for me because I loved the Lob City Clippers. But oh man, does he look bad. He looks like he should be on a coaching staff somewhere. As for some big performances this week, Isaiah Hartenstein had 33 and 19 in 31 minutes in a win over the Kings. Trey Murphy had 41 and 9 in a loss to the Spurs, making that a close game when it definitely would not have been otherwise. The Timberwolves scored 144 points against the Kings. I do have a video over on Little Rusty about how bad the Kings are, partially about that game, which will be out like right around when this one's going up. I don't know. Look out for it if it's not already. Donovan Mitchell had a 46-point game in a win against the Sixers, saying that he was motivated by a kid playing 2K who was trash-talking him.
And I told him, too. I was like, wait, just wait. And he just called me washed up. He called me a bunch of things. But I love it, you know what I mean? So I appreciate you. I told him I'd give him a shout-out, too. So that's what tonight was.
And Josh Giddey had a 29, 15, and 12 game in a win over the Sixers. Here's my Josh Giddey hot take. He is B- Luka Doncic. He is Luka Doncic at home. And now is time for our rapid fire segment. First of all, Brandon Ingram was fined for this tantrum on the bench where he spikes a water bottle. And I gotta say, again, same thing I said about Ja. I'm really not the type to be like, this is deeply immature, but for real, this is deeply immature. I understand throwing water on the floor in frustration, I guess, but when it then hits some guy in the face and you don't react at all, bro, you're a dick. What a fucking asshole. Jalen Green made his debut for the Phoenix Suns with a 29-point game in just 23 minutes, but he unfortunately re-aggravated his hamstring injury in the following game. De'Aaron Fox returned with an efficient game with 24 points, shooting 64% from the field. The Spurs have one of the best records in the West. A lot of you pointed out in my Victor Wembanyama How to Shut Him Down film room video that De'Aaron Fox would absolutely feast against this kind of defensive coverage, and I think that first game back is pretty indicative that that is true. The NBA is targeting October of 2027 to launch its new European League. Does that mean launch as in, hey, we're doing this now officially, or launch as in there will be a European team in 2027? Yeah, I'll fucking believe it when I see it. National NBA games are averaging the most viewers in 15 years through the first 2 weeks of the season, up 92% year over year. It's almost like the coverage beforehand fucking sucked and made watching games far less enjoyable. And now that it's not the same old boomers in the seat complaining about the product in front of them, people are actually going, oh, this is interesting, and watching. Who could have predicted something like that? Anyways, that was week 3 of Rusty Buckets news. We do plan on making these videos even more dense as time goes on, but as you can probably tell by the fancy graphics we got going on, these are a little bit harder to put out than normal. So if you would like to support this channel, then our Patreon is linked in the description. That is the best way to do it directly. For $3 a month, you get access to content early, as well as a Discord with like-minded NBA fans who just love talking hoop. Another way to do that is by clicking our link down below for Cheeky. They make soap, smells good. We got a code. Another way to help us out, also hype the video, like the video, and of course, subscribe. And my personal favorite highlight for this week was this absolutely ridiculous pass from Luka Doncic. How he even saw Rui, I do not know. Luka magic. Crazy take. Maybe don't trade that guy. Maybe you shouldn't have done that, Nico, you dumb son of a bitch.